So I don't know if we need to try and record in the morning in the daylight or something, but it's so
but that's
dark.
so hard with my new work schedule. Well, just this will do. This will do. The lighting's fine. Your lighting's better anyway because you weren't using the ring light for a long time.
I would sometimes forget, but mostly I used it.
Yeah.
I never had it this close to.
You're more evenly lit now.
Yeah, evenly lit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm evenly lit, and I'd like to welcome everyone back to another episode of Tell Me Where I'm Going Wrong, a podcast where two exes who are still really good friends talk about lots of different topics, including life, love, politics, pop culture, Lily Allen, vampires, and my name is Sean, and the other host is Josh. Hi, Josh. How are you?
Hi, Sean. I'm doing well, thanks, and welcome everyone. Welcome back to another episode. How's your week been? We haven't actually caught up this week.
Yeah, it's at time of recording. It's Thursday evening, and we were, of course, once again doing the very British thing of moaning about the darkness as the winter encroaches and wraps its spindly fingers around my neck.
It's bony, necrotic fingers.
It's easier to wrap them around my neck since my weight loss. So, but it is so dark, and because we were having that whole thing with the last episode where we're talking about clocks changing, and Helen commented on the last video talking about just how unusual it is that the clocks change. It's such a weird concept to me.
Yeah. One of my colleagues, who was originally from Poland, but they've lived here for, decades now. But they were saying in Poland there's a big movement to campaign against daylight savings.
Yeah.
But I'm not aware of anything like that in the UK.
People don't like things changing in the UK.
People are very, we just put up with a lot here, don't we?
Except for the European Union, where people were happy enough to vote to leave, to Brexit. But, the whole thing going on with Prince Andrew and the company that he keeps and the alleged crimes that he's involved in, people are very reluctant to get rid of the royal family, aren't they?
I would say less so than they used to be. I think when I was growing up, I think they're tolerated now. I think when I was growing up, they were cherished and beloved. But I think these days they're more just tolerated. I think the Queen Elizabeth II, was it? She held a place in a lot of people's hearts, both in the UK and around the world. And I think after her death and King Charles becoming, the monarch, I think so many people have just lost interest.
I was watching some old interviews. You speak a lot about, or you've spoken a few times about that podcast called The News. What's it called?
Oh, The News Agents.
The News Agents. I watched some of that because they were doing a special episode the other day about Prince Andrew. And there's all this drama about, or the concern. Drama is probably not a correct word to use because there's genuine concern about him living in this house for free. And Sarah Ferguson also lives in it for free, which is wild to me. I mean,
well, yeah. I mean, just to be factual, I don't think it's for free. I think it's on a very, very low rent. So,
But where are they getting the money from to pay the rent?
Well, exactly.
So
I mean, they're one of the richest families in the world, So it's take the royalty away from it. They're still one of the richest families in the world.
How much do you think the royal estate or the crown is worth in its entirety?
I don't know. It would be in the billions, like billions.
It'd be in the trillions, wouldn't it?
Maybe, because there's land, there's investments, there's businesses, properties. I mean, yeah.
And like what's that stupid name for the estate that William now owns?
Well, is it? I don't know if I don't know if you say the duchy or the duchy.
Yeah, the duchy.
Past the duchy on the left-hand side.
The Duchy of Cornwall.
Duchy, yeah.
And that portfolio owns a lot of things, but it owns, I think, thousands of rental properties.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a landlord renting like property to people who are either working class or poor. And there have been a lot of criticisms about many of these properties being substandard and having mold and damp problems. And we are paying, and I say we because I'm a taxpayer, but we are paying this family to live in the lap of luxury. And I think that everyday people are just so conditioned that the royal family there and have always been there, and it's just the order of things. It's just the way things are. And we don't actually, we're not confronted with the reality of how privileged these people are. So when you see this house, this building or property that Andrew lives in with Sarah Ferguson, and dozens of other people live in it because they've got servants and workers. I mean, it's a 30 bedroom property, I think, or a 30-room property.
Yeah.
They refer to it as a cottage, don't they?
Yeah, I can't remember the name.
And I don't know if they do that because it's a cutesy English thing or if they're trying to minimize
It might be a legal thing. It might be, call it a cottage and maybe it's eligible for some sort of tax break
Well, it's on the Windsor Royal Estate. So
Mhm.
I think it's on the same, there's this massive estate with different properties on it. And this property must be worth tens of millions of pounds. And could you imagine the upkeep on it? And they probably, don't pay any tax. I mean, I'm just saying that as a observation or a guess that they probably don't pay taxes that a non-royal would have to pay on these properties. But on my investigation, watching the newsagents, and do you know, I've actually never watched the newsagents before.
Well, I've never watched it. I've only ever listened to it because I'm still not
But is it
down with the
always
kids.
is it always those people?
Well, it's normally Emily Maitlis, John Sopel, and um, the other guy whose name I forget.
So Emily is the one who interviewed Prince Andrew
Yeah,
famously a
yeah.
few
She
years
used to
ago.
host Newsnight, and then she did,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I have to say that I wasn't blown away by the podcast, by the news program, the newsagents. I found it frightfully middle class. Like
It's very like middle class centrist. Yeah, it's not groundbreaking,
and
but
whoever,
that's okay because and we can talk about this in a little while maybe. But I don't think. Well, I have to be careful how I say this. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing for centrist politics are necessarily a bad thing. And I'm not saying I am a centrist myself, but I just think we can get onto that later because we'll go off on a tangent if I start. But yeah, I think it's got some problems, but it's still an okay podcast.
but once I watched that and I was just reading some things about Andrew and watching some videos, I stumbled upon some old interviews with Paul Page. Do you know who Paul Page is?
No, it doesn't ring
He
any
was a
bells.
royal protection officer, so he was like a police officer for the royal family. And he was stationed for a long time looking after or working alongside Prince Andrew. And he's a bit of a problematic character in that he spent time in prison for some sort of fraud himself. But he has spoken very openly. I can't speak to the honesty of it because I haven't been able to research his claims. But he's spoken a lot on different programs in the UK and in Australia and the US. He's been interviewed a lot about his time working alongside Prince Andrew and how problematic Prince Andrew was. And these interviews go back a few years. And now this guy is sort of coming back again, like people are dredging up these interviews. But the things he was saying about Prince Andrew was that he was a bully and he was abusive to people that worked. He was incredibly spoiled, and he said, I don't think people understand how spoiled these people are. And he said, most of them are friendly enough or nice enough about it as they go about their uber privileged lifestyle. But he said Andrew was atrocious.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a claim made by a few different people, not just this royal security officer. But Andrew, as an adult, had something about between 50 and 70 stuffed animals on his bed that were positioned in a certain way. And if you went to the dresser in the bedroom, like the chest of drawers, and opened it, there was a laminated card that showed the position that the stuffed teddy bears, stuffed toys had to be laid out on the bed. So whoever
Jesus.
the chambermaid was or the housekeeper that day had to get the card out, and and this security guard said that one day Andrew was screaming and berating a maid who had not put them back in the correct order and was calling her extremely abusive words. And
I mean, these are people, these are a group of people, and it's not just the royals. There are very wealthy people as well. It comes with, it's this uber level of privilege where people have just been allowed their whole lives to get away with doing whatever they want because they have the power, because they have money often.
yeah,
And it's, so evident in the prince. Well, yeah, he's still a prince, isn't he? He's no longer the Duke of York, but his abuse of power. But it's not, not getting him off giving him an easy ride or anything. But he's not alone in that. So many
are you
people.
taking the centrist position, Sue?
Absolutely not, Sue. But he's one in a long list of many, many people who have abused that power.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And there was this one story where, well, I mean, Paul Page spoke a lot about how Andrew used to have young women brought into Buckingham Palace, and he would often not have them sign into the visitor's book or into the security log, and they would just be brought in through like the side gate, or and they would come, and he said, he described them as young, scantily clad women and this would be a common occurrence. And another period where he was in the back garden or the back lawn of Buckingham Palace, hitting golf balls towards, there's like a lake out the back of Buckingham Palace. Did you know, like a small lake? And he was hitting the golf balls towards that. And another Royal Protection police officer that was with him, was his personal guard. He made him walk every now and then, and get all the golf balls and bring them back to him while he sat down. And then he would hit them all again. And this would go on for like an hour.
Did you see the footage of, I don't know where King Charles was, but he was in public somewhere this week.
Yes.
And he was heckled. And did you see the woman, at the front of the crowd? She was like, "Shut up, leave him alone."
Yes, because somebody was yelling out, "What did you know about Andrew? Do you think he should have to move out of this cottage?"
Yeah.
Do you know the name of this cottage? Can you remember the name of it?
Has it got frog in the title, or am
Is
I
it
just
Frogmore, or am I thinking
I want to say Frogmore, Toad of Toad Hall,
Toad Hall? And
Prince Toad of Toad Hall.
but also, like, a member of Parliament was trying to bring it up in Parliament, and was
Yeah.
warned by the Speaker to not mention.
And didn't they say in that episode of the newsagents, Lewis Goodall, by the way, I looked it up because it was annoying me. Lewis Goodall is the other presenter.
Oh, okay.
But weren't they saying on that episode of the newsagents that it's very it's almost unheard of that the royal family is discussed in Parliament. It's like an unwritten rule that it's never discussed. So,
and that's what I mean. Why we started this episode by saying that people are just very passive in this country. And what would it take? Now, this man, it's also come out this week. There are a photograph. He had Jeffrey Epstein, Harvey Weinstein, and Ghislaine Maxwell at a royal property having a party. Like, they were there. There was a photo of them all together. It was at whatever cottage they live in, Frogmore, Toad Hall. They were there in the back garden having a photo taken, and they were on their way to, I think it was Windsor Castle, for one of Andrew's daughter's 18th birthday parties. So he invited these two known sex pests / pedophiles, or 3 if you include sex
Ghislaine.
trafficker Maxwell. There is no way he didn't know. There is no way. And I mean, this is obviously speculation because he made or the royal estate made a payment to what's her name? Who just recently ended her own life?
Virginia Giuffre.
Yeah. So they made a payment to settle this court case. And so, there's nothing on the record.
Can I just say, though, and this is not in any way to let him off the hook or any of those people that we just mentioned off the hook.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's the pretense of what we think of is the, how do you say it, like the real world, like we think, oh, this is the world that we live in, this is the culture and the society that we live in, and then there's the reality, and it's often there's such a gap, there's such a wide gap between the two, and then something happens like the Jeffrey Epstein thing, the Prince Andrew thing, the Harvey Weinstein thing, insert any sex scandal name here, sort of thing, and it's like, this is just a reminder that actually this stuff, like abuse, sexual abuse, trafficking, it's way more common than we like to believe. It's way more common than we're led to believe. And
but that.
I'm not saying that therefore, why single out these people. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm just saying, this is such a stark reminder that there are so many abuses of power in the world, and
why do you start this sentence with, this isn't to let them off the hook, but this is more common than me?
Because I don't want to make it sound like, oh, this is just the reality, and we shouldn't call it out. We should call it out. The reality. But I'm just saying, this is the tip of the ice. Yeah, but this is the tip of the iceberg, and we should not just for lack of a better term, cancel or prosecute or imprison or whatever these people. We absolutely should, but we shouldn't stop being concerned about these things then and there.
Yeah, but I don't think anyone's saying that. I'm not
sure
that's
saying that, but that's the sort of implied response from society when these things happen. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe that. And it's like, well, why can't you believe it? It happens all the time. In every corner of the world. This is going on.
I don't think that's the sentiment. I don't think people are surprised it's happening. Well, I think people are frustrated and exhausted that it's happening. I think if you asked most people, do you think Andrew was involved in all of this? Most people in the UK would say yes. Some people would say, I don't care. So I don't think people are surprised. I think people are exhausted from it. I think people feel powerless to make change against, powerful people. I think that the privilege of the royal family has let them get away with so much over generations. Look at all of these nobody people in the royal family who live in royal accommodation, who get paid money from the Crown estate, who do nothing. They absolutely do nothing of any worth, and they don't contribute to society. It is so it is such a monumental I don't know, fuck over. We are being screwed over. We're being royal.
It's a fuck over of royal proportions.
Yeah, it's a right royal knockout, sir. But,
can I just change tack very quickly? I'm just looking at that the ficus plant behind you that I gave you a while back. It's looking very wonky. Is it all right?
It was always like that. It was growing in that direction, but it is healthy. The leaves, it's had big leaves. It's always was this spindly thing growing off in a direction.
Yeah, but wasn't it going straight? Didn't I have it tied to a cane when I gave it to you?
No, it was like that. It was always like that. So I don't know how to make it go straight.
Yeah.
How can I do that?
How pray the gay away?
Yeah, I don't think.
If you want it to be straight, pray the gay away.
Should I put it in a conversion therapy camp? I don't know how to make it go.
I mean, it's
Go
fine.
straight.
It will,
And there's
I
that
mean,
other thing
you're
drying
moving
up
to
there.
Australia. Oh yeah. Yeah, you're moving to Australia in what, 6 months? Is it
7
6
months,
months?
8
7
months.
months? So
I
yeah, I
can't
suppose
remember.
it's not going to be a problem that
But
much longer.
talking about like, powerful people who exploit and hoard wealth.
Mm.
You sent me that article to read called, I'm going to read out the title here in case anyone wants to look it up, or maybe you want
I'll
to put a
I'll put it
link
in the
to it.
show notes. Yeah.
But the title of it was Self-Termination is Most
Oh yeah.
Likely the History and Future of Societal Collapse. Now, this was published on the 2nd of August this year, 2025, by The Guardian. And it
And
was written,
can I just interject there and say it's taken me from the moment I opened the tab in August, it's taken
yeah,
me this many months to actually read the article.
okay. Well, it was written, let me just give a shout out, give him his flowers, but it was written by Damien Carrington, who is the environment editor at The Guardian. And you being what is it, a tofu eating,
Oh,
Guardian reading
oh
wokerati?
yeah, Guardian reading, Topu reading, Wokarati,
Yeah, so you came
centrist
across this,
Wokarati.
you came across this article, and it's about a book or a study that was written by an Australian academic called Dr. Luke Kemp, who belongs to, which is my favourite name of an area of study. He belongs to the Centre for the Study of Existential Risk. Go say that again. The Centre for the Study of Existential Risk at the University of Cambridge. Anyway, I mean, did you want to talk a little bit about what this article was about?
Well, I mean, I suppose the title kind of says a lot, doesn't it? But we've spoken on this podcast a lot before about the podcast called Fall of Civilisations. And it ties in very closely with that. And it's about how, societies throughout history have fallen. Like there is no permanence in all the things that we believe are permanent and everlasting and enduring. And um, on the podcast, it's not so much mentioned in the article, but on the podcast, The Fall of Civilisations, which I'll put a link to again. Sorry, I just put my hand in shot. We'll get to that in a minute. They often the podcast episodes focus on one society at a time, and the fall of that civilization um, is often precipitated by an environmental change, which brings about lack of resources, fighting for resources, and that sort of thing. This article I found quite hopeful in some ways because what the Center for Center for Existential Risk
Yeah.
argue is that often in the fall of these civilizations, in the fall of societies, um, the sort of what we would now call the 1% suffer, but the 99% often
Well,
will find. Well, let me finish my sentence, then
you're
you
very
can.
much, you're glass half full where I'm glass half empty, because I found it quite scary, the article. I'd be interested in reading the book
But
by
yeah,
Luke
but
Kemp.
just to finish my sentence, because if people are listening or watching, they've not read the article. But he says that for the 1% in societies that fall, um, they lose a lot, but for the 99%, they often actually do better because uh, most civilizations and societies have been structured around that sort of top echelon of society, taking resources and taking wealth, or in whatever in whatever sense wealth is valued in that society, from the majority and hoarding it. And so there's often a bit of redistribution, but
Well,
yes, there is a caveat to that. But you can talk about that if you want.
the book that this article is referencing, the book by Luke Kemp, is called Goliath's Curse. It's published by Penguin Books, but it was he studied over 400 societies across a 5,000 year period, or more than 5,000 years. And the book took 7 years to write. So he looks at all of these different societies, like you were saying, and how they collapse. And research shows that increasing wealth inequity, or inequality, I mean, always seems to precede the collapse of a society.
Mm-hmm.
So similarly, what we're in now, we have people who are billionaires on their way to being trillionaires. We have people around the planet who are poorer than poor, you can't even measure it. And what I found depressing about it, so what you're talking about, how some of these societies collapsed and the wealth was then sort of more evenly, or resources were more evenly distributed, or things became fairer for the vast majority of people who've been suffering under these, what do you call it? What's the term?
Like oligarchies or
oligarchs, yeah. Now it's very different because the global society that we live in it's almost like we're not individual societies. We're all part of, he refers to it as Goliaths. We're all part of the singular Goliath. So when the collapse comes, it's going to be much more catastrophic. And we're so tied into these global systems. We rely on them so much for food, medicine, transportation, lighting, heating, and there's so many more of us on the planet than these historical situations he's talking about, that we can't just go and start farming the field down the road.
And that's he said in the article, didn't he? Like previous civilizations would fall, but people still had a much closer connection with, the land, or I mean, that's a bit of an umbrella term, but people were much more self-sufficient because we weren't so reliant on global systems. So even if a civilization fell, people could fall back on their sort of supply chains, which were much more localized than they are now, and survive. Whereas a fall of present day civilization might look very different. Although I don't know. I mean, I don't. It's not that I want it to happen, although part of me maybe does. But, I do think we probably are a lot more resilient than we think. And yes, like our day-to-day life would change immeasurably.
Yes. Yeah.
But I do think we would forge away. I mean, there would be casualties. Yes, of course. Goes without saying, but
it's impossible for us to estimate how many people would die, but it's already happening.
Yeah. Yes, it is. That's right. Because the rich are taking more and more and more from society. But at the same time, I'm not advocating for it to happen, but we've said so many times here, both in private conversations and on the podcast, like our current lifestyle is so unsustainable, so ridiculously unsustainable, that if anyone were to look at it from an outside perspective, they would just, they would write us off as a lost cause. Like we are the architects of our own demise.
As Kesha said, we are who we are.
We are who we are. Like everything we do, everything,
But what are you going to do? So if systems failed on a grand scale, how many people live in London? Like 7 million people?
Yeah, like Greater London's more like 12 million or something, isn't it?
How would those people
eat?
Even if we thought, okay, there's enough food in store warehouses and supermarkets to last maybe a couple of years, where are we going to go to the toilet? Where are 12 million people going to put their trash?
That's what I mean. It would be a massive lifestyle change, and it would be like we'd be going to the toilet in our gardens if we've got gardens, or in the street. People would be going to the toilet in the street. Like that's what happens in some parts of the world. Capitalism has proven and continues to prove that it's not the solution, and there is only one way out of that, and that is for a complete paradigm shift away from capitalist society. But no one's gonna willingly embrace that. It's only going to come about from, revolution or collapse of society, fall of civilization type effect. So,
and we've all been socialized and trained into thinking, and I don't mean by some evil force. I mean collectively, we've all trained ourselves to believe that this is the way we should be living.
Yeah,
we don't see, and that's why people like Bernie Sanders or Zach Polanski or whoever else struggles so much to get a foothold in the political landscape is because they are offering up alternatives that are
Well,
drastically different.
yeah, although, and this is what earlier I said I didn't want to go off on a tangent too soon in the podcast, but and in the latest poll, I mean, it's just one poll. Zach Polansky, well, not Zach Polansky, I shouldn't say that. The Green Party, led by Zach
Yeah.
Polansky. There was a poll just came out the other day, and I know this. I say this like I've done my research. I listened to an episode of the centrist podcast, The News Agents. But there was a poll the other day that put the Green Party on 17%, 16%, one point behind Labour,
And the
and their
Conservatives.
membership is already Conservatives are less than 10% or something. I mean, it's quite comical, but their membership is way above the Conservatives as well. So I mean, it's incredible to think that within a few months, Zach Polansky, not even a few months actually, I think it's been like 5 weeks or something since he was elected leader.
Not even 5 weeks. I don't think it's even 5 weeks.
But what I'm concerned about is, yes, I'm really heartened by the popularity of a left-wing, progressive political party. That brings me joy. But it's balanced out, or it's not cancelled out maybe, but it's tempered, I suppose, by the fact that it's a real reflection of how polarized society is becoming. And centrist parties like the Conservatives and like Labour, even though I wouldn't have thought of them as centrist 5 years ago, with new parties on the scene like Zach Polansky's version of the Green Party or Nigel Farage's Reform,
Mm-hmm.
the traditional centrist parties are falling out of favour, and like everything else in society, politics is just becoming more and more polarised, and that scares me. That really
But
fucking terrifies
I
me.
think the
But
and for anyone listening who's not familiar with who we are or where we are, we're talking about the Green Party of England and Wales, because there are Green parties all around the world. But to me, the Green Party is what I remember Labour being like when I was young.
yeah,
Like it's not
yeah, they were
a
socialist.
super, it's not super left wing. It's just
No,
decency.
yeah.
That's why it's bizarre to me, like how far right Labour has swung in the UK.
But it really scares me though, because the stakes are so high now. Like, obviously, it was awful when Conservative Party, um, when the Tory Party won elections, or when we were living in Australia, what are they called, the ALP? No, what was it called? The Liberal. What was
LNP,
LNP? Liberal
Liberal
National Party.
National. Yeah.
People like John Howard and fucking what's his name, Tony Abbott,
Thought you were
um,
going to say Tony Bennett.
Tony Curtis, um, Tony Abbott. Like, it was awful to see them win, but I mean, it was not much comfort. But I suppose compare like the Conservative Party of like the noughties to
Yeah.
Reform now, and
Hmm.
I'd probably rather have the Conservatives than have Reform. And so, like, as heartening as it is to see this rise in the popularity of Zach Polansky and the Greens, Reform are gaining a lot of ground too, and I think are actually
Yeah.
ahead of the Greens in the polls. And so it's just it's not that I want people to be more centrist, but I suppose there's safety in centrist politics. There's safety in knowing that even if the pendulum swings slightly to the opposite of where you are, it's not going to swing that far.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's going to swing very fucking far. I mean, who was that awful Reform member who was talking about how she hates seeing all the black and brown people in advertising on UK television?
Yeah. I don't
And
know
it's
her
just
name. Is
like,
it Sarah or something?
I don't know. I don't even want to fucking know her name.
But do you know what was interesting is, I don't know. I don't know. Look at the state of my hair. Oh my God, what's going on here?
Soothe.
You're worried
I've
about
got
that
I've got
ficus
hair.
being
I've got hair on my list of things to talk about today, but let's save that.
You're worried about that ficus being fucking wonky. Look at the state of that.
Yeah, I'm going to send your fucking
Mm.
hair straight to that. Um, straight to that
conversion. It needs
conversion therapy.
conversion. Look, the way it sticks out like that, like John and Kate +8.
Well, Sue, I mean, my hair is getting so. I've deliberately been growing my hair, but it's just like I've not had long hair in so long. I don't know what to do with it anymore. And it's like I mean, it's okay on the pod because I've got my headphones on and it's just kind of like pushed back. But it's like it gets wild. Like it's like I've got a real sort of Jufro thing going on.
I told you look like Fortune Feimster.
I know. I was just gonna say, like, I want to be giving I want to be giving Pedro Pascal, but it's more like Fortune Feimster or Maggie Thatcher.
Maggie T.
Maggie T.
But in his book, apparently Luke Kemp says that he would cap people's personal wealth at $10 million.
Right, which makes so much sense.
Why does somebody want to be richer than that? What do you think the motivation is for somebody to want to have $500 billion?
Because we live in a capitalist system.
But what does it do for them? They can't spend it.
Well, they can, and that's exactly the problem. They can spend it, and that's the problem, that everything now is valued on its monetary, on monetary units.
But
and
the
there is
only
no
way
other...
if you had $500 million, the only way you'd send it is if you went to fucking Mars or something. So,
no.
What would you do with that much money?
Oh, you'd buy properties. You'd buy a fucking island somewhere.
Yeah, but if you're like got nearly $1 billion, you could buy a country. Like, what are you going to do with that much money? That would be meaningful to you. That would be meaningful.
Well, I mean, I could think of ways to spend it, and I would do a
lot
of it? What I think. Yeah, what I think, and maybe this is going to make me sound like a wanker, but I would do a lot of what I consider altruistic things. I would buy land I would start in London because that's where I live, but maybe I'd do this all around the world. I would buy land in London and build incredible parks. Like, what's the one in Barcelona, Parque Güell? Is that his name? The guy that designed that? I would build things which future generations would enjoy and would bring peace and joy and inspiration to people. That's what I would do.
Yeah, but
I would set up. Yeah, I would set up. Like community hubs where young musicians, or not young musicians actually, I'm not going to be ageist about it. Any aspiring musician could come and get support, I don't know. There are so many things I could think of to do if I had that kind of money.
I don't think people should be allowed to have that much money. I think that those things that you said are possible in a world where we stop billionaires from existing. Did Billie Eilish just say something about that? I saw something on social media where she got up at some awards show and she said, "Why are there billionaires? Give your money away." She just said something and it wasn't a long protracted speech. It was just like, "Hey, by the way, what's the deal with billionaires? Give your money away, guys."
Just as an aside, as a little mini tangent, I don't know if I sent it to you, but your friend Maggie, Billy's mum, posted a video just the other day, and she was at a veg restaurant in Philadelphia with Rich.
Nice.
Remember Rich Landau?
Yes.
Who you and I have met a couple of times now.
Yeah.
So just as a little potted history, there was, my brother lives in Philadelphia, so Sean and I used to go over quite regularly, and there was, there is, a vegan couple, Kate and Rich, I think, who used to run a restaurant called Horizons in Philadelphia, and then opened another restaurant called Veg, VEDGE, which is a sort of, I don't know if it's Michelin starred, but it's a very sort of fine dining, high-end vegan restaurant. And their seitan was incredible. I remember, this is in the days, I'm talking about the noughties, when people didn't know what seitan was, and
lots of people did, but it wasn't as common. It's not even common now, really, is it?
No. But people had no idea what it was or anything, and they used to make the most incredible seitan. It was just
it was a wonderful it is a wonderful restaurant. I haven't been there in a long time.
So Maggie was there. Billie Eilish's mum was there the other day, and she posted a thing, And she was saying, because it was funny, she's saying, "Oh, I'm breaking my no gluten rule and having the seitan or something." I think so. I can,
Well,
I could relate, Sue.
I would love to go to veg. I would love to go back to the US, but I'm a bit scared of going there.
Well,
Um,
I just booked Dollywood. I just booked for me and Anna. Um, I know I've spoken about it on here before. Next year, my friend Anna and I turn 50, and we're going to spend. Well, we're not actually going to be there for our birthdays, but we're going to go to Dollywood in Tennessee to celebrate our 50th year. And I just booked our season passes last night, so I'm very, very excited.
season passes? What do you
Yeah,
mean?
because we looked at buying tickets, and it was also anxiety inducing because you have to really narrow down the date, and you'd have to book flights. And I just said, look, if we're going to go for 2 days, it's worth getting a season pass, because the entry, the admission cost of 2 days is almost the same as a season pass. And then I
Yeah.
said to Anna, what if we go 2 days and we love it so much that we want to go back a third day? Um, why
This
don't
is
we just buy a
wild.
season pass? And then you get free parking, you get a free souvenir Dollywood mug and all that sort of stuff. So we get to go in an hour early, before it opens to the public. So anyway, we bought season passes. And someone I know sort of socially is in Tennessee right now. He's going to Dollywood on Saturday, and he's just been sending me, just on my way home from work today, he's been sending me videos of all these wild bears. Like, there are loads of wild bears in the woods near Dollywood, and he's been sending me videos. So I'm very, very excited, even though it involves going to the US.
Yeah, well, I'd be terrified of going there. Talking of theme parks, when Hill and I go to Australia next year, we're going to go via Tokyo, and we're
Oh.
thinking of going to Disney in Tokyo.
Hmm.
My problem with a lot of theme parks, apart from them being capitalist hellholes, is a lot of them have animals involved, and I really don't like
Mm.
the concept of like horses being ridden, or obviously some parks have like marine life in tanks. I mean, I would never go somewhere like that. But I don't know, like I find it, well, it's obviously problematic and I would never support something financially that did that. But I don't know, does Dollywood still have that Dixie Stampede or whatever it is? Or
Well, it's not in Dollywood.
oh, it's in the
That's in
town.
what's it called? The town.
Pigeon Forge.
No, it's Sevierville or something. Um, yeah, but it's not called the Dixie Stampede anymore. So yeah, I mean she does, and yeah, I mean
Is
it's
it
a
called the
separate.
chick? Is it called the Chicks Stampede?
It's called the Chicks with Dicks Stampede. Um, no, it's just called Dolly's Stampede. I don't know, Spectacle or something.
Right.
Um, but Uh, I, like when I was in Disney, however many years ago that was, in Orlando, I was there with the family, and there are, I think, 4 Disney parks in Orlando. There's Disney World. There's, what's the futuristic one? Well, what was
Epcot.
futurist? Yeah, but what's that's
I
isn't
don't
that in
know.
a separate park? And then there's
I,
like the Disney Studios. I don't know. And then there's like the Animal Kingdom. And I'd said I'm not going to the Animal Kingdom. So I had a day away from the family. And like, you know, it obviously Disney don't give a shit. Like, they still got my money for the other 3 days that I was there. But
yeah.
I didn't want to go to a theme park where there were actually animals in and around the rides. I was just like, fuck that, like, I'm not
Yeah.
interested in that. But,
Yeah.
you know.
I I I'm trying to arrange an event next year in London. Uh, top secret at the moment, but
I
I
don't know
was
what
being
you're
told
talking about, Sue.
I was being told by one of the councils that if I did it in one of their parks, they would require me to have security. That's fine, like 24-hour security.
Hmm.
But they said that I would need to have the dog unit, like where the police or a security company comes with a van of dogs and the dogs patrol. And I was like, unless that's the law, I wouldn't do that. And they were like, oh, it's what we require. And I said, well, I'm not going to do it. And then they were like, okay, well, maybe we could consider not doing that. And I'm like, well, I said, "What's the purpose of that?" And they said, "Well, it's just because the dogs are much more effective as a deterrent and being alert." And I was like, "Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
That's
I would
vague.
rather somebody."
I would imagine it's to do with drugs and terrorism.
No, no. Well, no, it's not. It's not while people are coming in. The dogs aren't sniffing them. It's to patrol overnight. It's to patrol the grounds overnight. And it's because dogs hear things that humans don't, or humans fall asleep, or whatever. And so it's to protect the boundary of the thing. But I wouldn't want that to happen at an event that I'm running, dogs being
Mm,
used for
mm,
security. I'd rather somebody break in. Like, it's not that important to me that
mm.
dogs get used for that. Um, can we change topic? Oh, actually, before we do, just jumping back to the wealth cap thing, what
Oh
do
yeah.
you think wealth cap should be capped at? If you were going to say, okay, over a certain amount, the money has to go back to the state or to general population.
Well, I think that it would have to be a phased in rule, and I think that it should start relatively high, and it should be. Are you talking about in the UK? Are you talking about
Well, maybe
globally?
just globally as a general rule, what would you do?
Well, I think they should start by saying $1 billion, let's say, look, because the US dollar is such a dominant, currency.
Mhm.
Let's use US dollars. I think $1 billion. I can't see any justification why anyone would need to accrue more than $1 billion. And then I
Yeah,
think that after, 2 years, that should go down to maybe what's a billion? A billion is 100 million, isn't it?
a
Um,
1,000,000,000.
well, it's different in the US, though, I
No,
think.
it's not anymore. It's all standardized
Oh, was
now.
it all? Okay, because it used to be
Yeah.
different. Okay, so yeah, so after a couple of years, then I think that should go down to maybe 800 million.
Hmm.
And then it should, and then I think, I don't know, I suppose like the value of currency changes over time, but based on today's standard, I think it should be capped at, I don't know. I'm just pulling figures out the air, but like, I don't know, 200 million. Like,
That's a
what
lot.
could you need?
That's a lot more. That's a lot more than what Luke Kemp said, which was 10 million.
Yeah.
Because you think in a lifetime, if you had 10 million US dollars, you could live in the structure that we find ourselves in now and the systems that we find ourselves in. You could live an extremely comfortable life
Mm,
where all of your basic needs would be met and then some. You would then
mhm,
also have money for leisure.
mhm,
So, anything over that, it's not really necessary. And there are some people that make that much money in a day.
mhm.
So we're saying amount of money that would be enough for someone to live their life with, people are making that in a day.
And yeah, I think if you've got, I don't think any of our viewers or listeners are going to be in this position, but if you've got that kind of wealth and you don't think you could survive on, less than that cap, I'd love to hear your justification for that. I'd love to know
Well,
why.
I mean, well, to start with, Helen, if you've got that much money, give us some, please. We really could use it. I know Michelle doesn't have that much money, but
We do
given
have
what
other
Luke,
listeners. It's not just those two.
well, yeah, but
But
it's
they're, they're
just the
they're the two.
identifiable
They're the
ones,
two that, particularly Helen, is the one that comments the most, and
comments.
we do
But
appreciate it.
but what Luke Kemp says, it's not about what you need, or it's about ego. It's about
Hmm.
trying to uh, like score points or be better than somebody else. Like it's like, with Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, that's like a micro study of that. It's like they're trying to who's can be the richest person in the world. For
Hmm.
whatever reason, there can't be a reason other than just being the richest person in the world because they
Hmm.
don't need that much money.
Hmm.
There's nothing they could do with that.
I yeah. I feel like revolution is the only way out of this, though, because I feel like we need to, you know, putting wealth caps and stuff. It's still existing within this capitalist framework, and I do think that we need to value so many other things. Value should be placed on so many things that do not have a monetary unit,
Well,
before
don't
them.
tell the news agents that. You'll ruffle their feathers.
Well, so
Um, well, talking about putting value on things that
mm,
other than money, Lily Allen has released a new album.
She has.
And it's called West End Girl, and it's her first album in 7 years. What are your
Mhm.
initial reactions to West End Girl by Lily Allen?
I loved it. And I've liked a lot of Lily Allen's output over the years. I think she's an interesting person, and a very astute musician. I read her autobiography, which I think you maybe gave it to me after you'd
Yes,
read
I
it,
did.
and found that very moving, very poignant. And I I have a lot of respect for her. You and I have seen her in concert many times. I think we were both at her first ever concert in the US, weren't we?
Yeah, her first US show at the
Yeah,
Hero Ballroom in New York City in Manhattan.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I also saw her at the River Stage were you at that concert in Brisbane in the Botanic
mm-mm,
Gardens?
no.
I saw her there, and
I've
then I
seen her
saw
in
her
Leeds. We saw her in Leeds
yeah,
together.
where people were
Um,
shouting at me that I looked like Chris Moyles.
oh yeah, Moilsy.
Moylesy?
Um, but I think the album is incredible.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
not only for the music, but for the narrative. I mean, I had no idea. I'm not that, as you know, Sue, I'm not that up with pop culture. Um, but I kind of had heard that her and David Harbour, the actor, had separated. Um, but I had no idea why. Didn't really care why, actually. I'm not that into celebrity gossip either. Um, but the album is just, what's the word? Like excoriating, like she
Excoriating? Is that a word?
excoriating, isn't that the word? Like she absolutely rips him to shreds on the album, and it's
And to be
fascinating.
fair, she has said in interviews that it's a mixture of real life inspiration and some uh, things inspired by what she's been through. And I
Okay.
think she's maybe said that to get herself off the hook a little bit.
Well, I was going to say, like, because you did say to me just as we were getting ready to record, oh, you wanted to talk about the Lily Allen album. And I said, well, we've got to be careful because, like, I would imagine David Harbour has had a lot of discussions with lawyers over the past, month or so, or last week
Yeah.
particularly. Um, not that,
Well,
not that he's going to come after us, but like
could you imagine the Netflix executives
with
flipping
I
out because
know with Stranger
the
Things
final the
5 or
final
whatever.
season of Stranger Things is just about to start, and he would have been getting ready to do a global press
I
tour,
know, I
and
know.
I can't imagine him being sent out to face journalists. I mean, it would just be
No,
so
because
hostile.
all questions are going to be about the Lily album.
Oh, the first question would be, "So, who the fuck is Madeline?" Like that would be the first question.
Yeah,
I would yell that
totally.
at him in the street if I saw him.
Yeah.
Like I'm so, but so through the album, Lily recounts or tells a storyline about being in a relationship with somebody and this person asking her to open their relationship because he wanted to have sex with other people, and that they set parameters around that,
Mhm.
saying that it had to be meaningless sex with people. It couldn't be an emotional connection with
There had to be
anybody.
money exchanged. It had to be anonymous and no
Or
emotion
in
involved.
hotel rooms. It couldn't be out in public. It couldn't be. And then she saw a text message on his phone where somebody had thanked him for playing tennis with her. And the rumor goes, and this is all rumors, but the rumor goes that he was having a 3-year affair with somebody. And
And
so
and
the
the album uh, posits, I suppose, or argues that this man, whether it's David Harbour or an amalgamation of him and other people, is a sex addict and a narcissist. Like that's
yeah.
kind of the act. That's where the album is based from. That's the
But
angle it takes.
one of the reasons I love Lily Allen so much and why I connect with her art so much is she doesn't paint herself as an angel.
No.
She never, and if you read her book, you'll really take that away. It's warts and all. She really holds herself up and says, "Yeah,
Mhm.
like I fucked this up so much," or she talks candidly about alcohol abuse, and I don't put that in the same category as fucking up. I mean, that just is something that happens to people. but I'm saying that all of the ups and downs and the trials and tribulations of her life have always been laid bare in her art, whether that's her book, her interviews, her music. And that's why I think it's such a stroke of genius, this album, is that she's talking about things that people often see as taboo or uncomfortable. And it's like reading somebody's diary. To me, this is the sort of songwriting that Taylor Swift thinks she's doing, but she's not doing it because she's not a good songwriter. Like, she's just a very generic.
Oh, come
She's,
on. Like, I'm
hang
not
on,
a
let me
Swiftie,
say,
but I
no, but
wouldn't say she's not a good songwriter.
but it's very generic, color by numbers or write songs by numbers. It's not like these
Sells
Lily
it.
Allen to
It's what
me is,
sells.
well, Lily Allen to me is like a modern day poet. You know how like people used to go to bars or taverns and listen to poets read out their new work. This is really poetic and emotional.
I think
And
she always has been, and it's not just this
yes,
album. I think
yeah,
she's always been like that. A real sort of I don't know, just a fresh voice.
yeah,
It's
and
she's always been like that.
and having a woman speak so candidly and from her own position and her own framework and not having to put it through a man's lens or through like the male gaze and just to talk so humorously as well, but also so tragically. Like, it's a very unique style that she has. And I love it. Now, so the album was apparently written and recorded in 10 days. And I think that really adds to the rawness and the sort of almost fragile beauty of it. It is such a exquisitely crafted piece of work. And it's like listening to the story of this breakdown of this relationship in chronological order as well. And talking of chronological order, she's just announced today that she's going to tour the album in the UK. And she's going to perform the album from beginning to end in the order that the album exists. And so she's playing 2 nights at the Palladium in London, but she's playing all over, like Glasgow,
Oh,
Leeds,
when
Sheffield.
has that gone on sale already?
No, it goes on sale on the 7th of November, and the
And when is the
dates are in
concert?
March.
Oh,
March
wow. Are you
next
going to
year.
try and get tickets? I'd love to go
Oh,
to that.
yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, I think it'll be near impossible to get tickets. I mean, people are responding to this album incredibly positively.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's been away for so long. I mean, her last album came out 7 years ago. So she hasn't done a tour. I think this will sell out in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
So I might end up going to like Sheffield Town Hall to see her or something. But I think it would be worth doing. I think it would be worthwhile going to this. To me, it feels like a very special piece of art and a very special project. And
Has
I want to
has
experience it.
has David Harbour come out publicly with any kind of comment or press release around the album?
No, I saw on some trashy social media site that the day after it came out, he was at a theme park in the US with Lily's 2 daughters. Like, her daughters are like 13 and 12 years old, I think. And
Yeah.
he had, he'd taken them. And I don't know, maybe that was a way of like, that's another thing. The album would leave you thinking that they must hate each other. But this is something that this album was a cathartic process she went through. I think last December, she wrote and recorded this. So they've probably moved on a lot. Like, a lot of when relationships end, people move through different stages. The day after the album came out as well, the house that they bought together that she describes in some of the songs, that was put up for sale in Brooklyn. So it's currently on sale for like $8 million. And so I'd imagine that they communicate and they have some sort of
I love
ongoing
how, like,
relationship.
since the album's release, like, all the fans or the stans are going through, like, like excavating through, like, archaeologists excavating through like old social media posts. And there was that time when, do you remember when Lily Allen was doing that play in London, the Ghost?
Yeah.
Was it Ghost Story? Was that what it was called? And I think there was a post where David Harbour had sent her bad luck flowers or something for it, because he
Yeah.
said he didn't want, if she did really well and got good reviews, he didn't want to be jealous. And people on the fans are all like, oh my God, what a controlling narcissist and blah, blah, blah. which I find quite amusing. But
yeah, does it make you feel different about him?
yeah, and it will affect how I see him on the new series of Stranger Things, definitely.
Because that character that he plays is gruff, and what's his name? Jim Hopper, is that his name?
Yeah.
He is gruff, but he's sort of framed, and David plays him as lovable rogue who
Hmm.
is disgruntled but with a heart of gold.
Hmm.
And so to think of him as somebody who is, um, having, well, to be honest, going through situations that a lot of us go through in life. I mean, he's not unique. It's not like he's the worst person on the planet or uniquely bad. But it does make you see him as, because we project so much of that character onto who we think he is.
Hmm.
It's very different. But this is a bit touchy, this subject. But I'm not going to say it. I won't say
Oh,
it on the podcast.
Sue, that you
I'll
can't
tell you
say
what.
that.
The people who know, they'll know what I'm talking about, and they'll realize why I want to talk about it. But I'll tell you when we get off.
Well,
I just don't think
I don't.
it's
I'm clearly not in the
legally what
know. Is it to
I
do with
don't think
David
it's
Harbour?
yes, and I don't think it's legally wise for me to say it. So I'll tell you when we get off. It's true, but
Oh
I
my
don't
god.
want to say it out loud. Before
Okay.
we wrap up, well, so we're gonna get the Lily Allen tickets in a week.
Well,
Yeah,
we're
it's
gonna
next
try.
Friday
We're
or
gonna try.
next Friday. Can I just tell you something that I've been trying to tell you for the last 3 or 4 episodes, but there was
Sure.
never time. Can we spend the last 10 minutes discussing this?
Hmm.
What do you know about a TV show called Dark Shadows?
Dark Shadows. I don't think I've heard of it.
Dark Shadows was a soap opera that started in 1966 in the USA, and it ran for only 6 years, and it was a gothic soap
19
opera.
what?
66,
Jeez.
right? And it was on ABC network in the US, and it was a gothic soap opera set in Maine. And so it started in black and white. That's how old it was, and then it transitioned to color. But it was like soap operas are really focused on romance and drama, but it also was focused on the supernatural. And there were ghosts, werewolves, zombies, witches, warlocks,
What was it
time
called?
travel, dark shadows.
Dark Shadows.
And they even got into like parallel universes, and a lot of the actors would play multiple roles, come back and play different roles in different timelines and stuff. It is the wildest thing. But the main protagonist of the show was a vampire called Barnabas Collins, and it is a cult classic. If you watch some of these clips on YouTube, it is so camp and hilarious. But it really developed a large teenage following back in the 60s and early 70s because it was on at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So what I found out, like I knew about this show, and obviously with my vampire hysteria, I've always been interested in Barnabas Collins. But I found out that a lot of young people in the US went on to create art inspired by this show, Dark Shadows. So the creator of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the TV show, was really a big fan of this show. And some of the characters in Buffy the Vampire Slayer used to sit around watching Dark Shadows on TV.
No.
Um, the Vampire
Was
Diaries
was
was really
anyone
inspired by it.
were there any actors in it that I would know?
No, the guy who played the vampire was called Jonathan Frid, and he wasn't. No, I don't think any of them went on to be super famous. Um, in
Was
2012,
John Travolta's sister in it, Sue?
yes, in 2012, Tim Burton made a film version starring Johnny Depp, which I had never heard of, and I can't believe I hadn't heard of it. So he made like a big Hollywood blockbuster version of this show. And so Johnny Depp played the vampire
Is it called
character,
Dark Shadows?
Dark Shadows, and it starred Michelle Pfeiffer, Johnny Lee Miller, Chloe Grace Moretz, of course, Helena Bonham Carter, and the guy who played the vampire from the 1960s show. He made a cameo in the big movie version, and he died
Ah.
before it was released. So
Oh, okay.
he died in 2012. But it really inspired a lot of people to go on and create art. Like, obviously, Passions was a complete, sort of, not a copy, but Passions was a soap opera set in a supernatural town.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out today, I watched some old clips of one of the characters in, we've spoken about her before, Tabitha was a witch in Passions.
Mm-hmm.
She makes a few jokes in the show where, oh, I've been out on a date with my old boyfriend Barnabas. And she talks about the
Oh.
vampire from Dark Shadows and how she has been on dating him for hundreds of years. And it's
Mm.
quite funny. Or in the Gilmore Girls, what's the character that Melissa McCarthy played? Suki?
Suki?
Yeah, the chef. There
Yeah.
was one episode where she went to sulk in a hotel in the inn that Lorelei ran, and she went in and found her in the room sitting in the dark on her own watching Dark Shadows
Oh, okay.
on the TV. Or even in King of Queens. Do you remember how Patton Oswalt was in the King of Queens
Mm-hmm.
playing Spence, one of the friends of Kevin?
Mm-hmm.
What was his name in the show?
I
Kevin?
don't know.
Doug.
Don't know.
Doug and Carrie. You don't remember the King of Queens?
Oh yeah, I remember it. I just can't remember the character. I remember the theme song.
So Patton Oswalt played this character called Spence, and his on and off again girlfriend in the show was played by Rachel Dratch. You know,
Oh yeah.
Rachel Dratch from 30 Rock and everything else that you've ever
Mm-hmm.
seen. And in one episode, he was talking to her about she wanted to break up with him because he wanted to go to a Dark Shadows convention. Commemorating this soap opera. And later in the show, he was dressed as the vampire, Barnabas Collins. And,
I've
there's
never
this,
heard of this before.
I know. And so I was thinking, you and I must have heard jokes about this show
Yeah.
hundreds of times, because
Yeah.
even in the book, Running with Scissors, you
Mm-hmm.
know that book? You've
Yep.
read that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The characters, the boy and his mum, sit and in the dark and watch Dark Shadows and talk about Dark Shadows. And
Well,
they,
do you know, it's so interesting, isn't it? Because when we consume media now, whether that's a book
yeah,
or a film or a TV show, we will often pause, or maybe not even pause, depending on how gripping the content is. We will go off
yeah.
on these like tangents, these little Google wormholes, and any reference like that we'll research. But back in the day, you either
Yeah.
didn't have the opportunity to do that, or it wouldn't occur to you to do that.
Well, that's what I think. Like, I wonder what I was thinking if I watched Buffy and Spike was sitting in front of the TV watching Dark Shadows.
Mm-hmm.
Or if Tabitha said, oh, I went on a date with Barnabas Collins. Or I was reading Running with Scissors. Like, before the internet was that, what's the word? Like,
Prevalent
when
or
something omnipresent?
omnipresent. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, before it was so ingrained in us, what did we do about references? Like, how did we make
Well, they just
meaning
went.
of
They went over
things?
our head. They went over our head. There are so many things that I now rewatch as an adult or an older person, and realize that I completely missed some of the sort of touchstone cultural references that were used at the time because I
I
didn't
think
know what
what's
they.
also, yeah, like, well, that's like when we were talking about Lost Boys last week, and I was like, I can't believe that I only found out that, or made sense that
The Alice in
kid's character
Wonderland.
was queer. No,
Oh,
it was
right,
queer coded.
right,
Was
okay.
queer coded. You know what I mean?
Mm.
But also, like, I've watched, the Vampire Diaries. I've watched Buffy. I've read Running with Scissors. I've watched every episode of King of Queens like 10 times. I've
Mm-hmm.
watched Passions. I've probably heard all of these references, and I've gone all of these decades without knowing. It must be also have something to do with Dark Shadows just being a US thing. Like, I've never heard of it being screened in Australia. I've never heard of it being screened in the UK.
Well, yeah. Again, that's a sign of the times, isn't it? Because when we were young, there wasn't this global culture, like global monoculture.
Yeah.
Everything was very much restricted by your geographical region or location. So things
So
that
if
were
there
big in the
was,
US.
back in the days of Dark Shadows, if there was a societal collapse, Barnabas could have just relied on surviving with his local area and his
Mm-hmm.
coven or whatever. But now in this multinational,
in this
it'll be
globalized
tougher for him.
capitalist economy.
Be tougher for him to survive. Anyway, should I make it my personality to try and watch all 1,100 or however many episodes of this soap opera in chronological order?
I'm surprised you haven't started already. Or maybe you have. No. But we are recording this on the 30th of October, and it's the day before Halloween. Are you excited about Halloween? Do you even though I know you don't believe in the afterlife or anything like that, are you excited about Halloween tomorrow night?
No, I mean, we have a little altar kind of thing in the house because my husband, as we say again and again, is from Mexico, and his family commemorate the Day of the Dead, which is the 1st of November. And
first and second.
Here's a picture of some of his relatives that have passed, and he puts offerings out. Like, we've got some vegan pan de muerto, like sweetbreads and fruit and tequila. But that's what we sort of commemorate here. I mean, are you going to any Halloween parties? Or?
Yeah, I'm going. There's like the West London Queer Project are having a Halloween party tomorrow night. I'm going to go to that. I haven't sorted out a costume yet, so I need to.
What are you going to wear?
Well, I don't know. I've got some. You've seen them before, but I've got these like bloody doctor's scrubs, which I might have to like. I mean, I've got nothing else. Nothing else.
Why don't you wear that Santa Claus outfit and go as an evil Santa?
I think I gave it back to you. I don't think I've got it anymore.
I've got I've got a very cheap and nasty Dracula cape that is not.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm looking at this sad old bag of like doctor scrubs covered in fake blood. And I don't know. I might.
When is Halloween tomorrow? Is that
tomorrow
the day
night,
that people?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe I'll just stay home and watch a scary movie or something. I'm not. Since I don't drink alcohol anymore, like for about 3 years now, I don't really want to go places where people are drinking, and not in a puritanical kind of way of like, oh, I'm better than you, or it's just not that enjoyable to me. I don't see the value in going somewhere where people are drunk and I'm just stood there like sober, drinking tap water. Feels weird.
Well, I'll be drinking tomorrow night. So
it's your only vice, Sue.
It is. It's my only vice. It is my only vice.
Oh, well, and we've got 1 minute. 1 minute left. Can you give us a hand update?
Oh my God, no. That's a Halloween story for another time. I think it's so boring. People aren't interested. But yeah, let's wrap up. I'm going to put some links in the show notes to the articles we've mentioned, and I don't know, a few other things I'm sure we've mentioned. But do subscribe wherever you're listening or watching this podcast, and leave us a comment. Let us know how you're celebrating or have celebrated Halloween, because this is coming out after the fact. But stay safe. Watch out for the lost spirits between here and the afterlife, and we'll be back in your feeds this time next week. Until then, hit subscribe and stay safe.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.